Good morning, traders. I'm Emily Advani, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Thursday, April 17th. We wrap up a shortened week of trading today ahead of tomorrow's market holiday after a down day for stocks yesterday. Following comments from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, stocks dipped and all three major indices ended in the red. The Dow tumbled nearly 700 points, or about 1 3/4%. The S&P 500 slid 120 points, or nearly 2.25%. The Nasdaq dropped 516 points, or more than 3%. Bill, let's get into Thursday's action with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Hi, yes. Good morning, Emily. I'm watching the S&Ps. We're up 0.59%, almost 0.6%. It's positive. I mean, we did have a big pullback yesterday, but very heavy selling pressure. So today's gains are kind of positive. It's good to see. Markets are kind of reacting to Trump's comments yesterday, where he, talked about the trade talks being very positive with Japan. Apparently he was in the negotiations and he walked away very pleased. But I also think he has to say that because he knows that the markets are falling apart and he can't have the markets fall apart on him. And they are due to the trade tariffs, and he can't have that. So he's going to be talking up the trade deals in a positive light over the next few days and weeks. Later today, he's going to be meeting with the Prime Minister of Italy, which I find interesting. I bet that could be positive as well. But the central bank news, it's still in focus. It hasn't really walked away. I mean, today we get the ECB announcement. There's an ECB announcement coming out, and they're expected to announce a 25 basis point rate cut this morning. But Fed Chairman Powell, he was hawkish in his comments yesterday, and he said that the Trump tariffs may create a challenging scenario for policymakers. Essentially, he's throwing cold water on the idea of rate cuts because, with their dual mandate of, fighting inflation and high unemployment and high employment, I mean, they're coming to a head, and you have to do one over the other. And I don't think he wants to let inflation get ahead of itself, because that's too hard to pull back. So we got to be cautious on expectations for a rate cut this year. They're probably likely to be falling, those odds. Taiwan Semiconductor TSM, they're trading higher this morning after earnings and guidance release. CEO said that the joint venture with Intel is not, they're not in talks with the Intel for a joint venture. United Healthcare falling after earnings and lower guidance. This morning on the economic calendar, weekly jobless claims, housing data, housing stats and building permits. And then after the bell today, you get Netflix, which is scheduled to release earnings. Now we're taking a quick look over Europe to see what's going on in Europe. The DAX is down 108 points at 0.51%. A little weakness in in autos and pharma stocks. Okay, FTSE's down 47 points, or 0.57%. Pharma stocks are also lower because, the trade talks are really being focused on Japan, and those pharma stocks need to, get some relief. So, we'll have to kind of wait to see how the day goes out there. But, pharma stocks are, kind of on sale this morning. And then you look at the CAC. The CAC is down 57 points, or 0.79% this morning. You're waiting on you're waiting on that ECB announcement this morning. Then we're turning our attention over to Asia, and Asia saw green. I mean, I couldn't believe this. I was on last night and I was watching the Tokyo markets, and they were trading higher, and I was really surprised after that pullback we had. I expected Japan to fall down, but no, Japan rallied. It was up 457 points, or 1.35%. Why? Because of President Trump's comments. He said big progress was made with trade talks with Japan. That's positive. Then you look at Hong Kong. Hong Kong rallied 1.61%. That's 338 points. Gains were broad-based. What was leading them? Tech, property, consumer sectors all trading higher. In China, China closed higher. It was up 0.13%. And now that's 8 consecutive sessions for that index where it's shown higher highs, higher gains each day. So, that is kind of good. But, there will be there will be a session where it pulls back. But right now, 8 sessions in a row of moves higher. The market needs clarity on these U.S.-China relationships. Now, China has indicated a willingness to engage in trade talks with the U.S., but they have some preconditions. One of them is they want one guy to talk to, and they want that guy to have the ability to make the deal. It's going to be that's going to be a little bit of an ego issue for Trump, and we'll see how that comes out. Then we're taking a look at oil. Oil's trading higher. Oil's up over 1% this morning. Listen, there's fears of a disruption to the global supply chain. That's causing the move higher. Because yesterday, the U.S. announced new sanctions targeting Chinese importers of Iranian oil because they want to clamp down on Iranian exports, and they're doing that by hitting the buyers of Iranian oil as well. So that hurts global supply, and that pushes oil prices higher and oil up. WTI $63.32 a barrel, up 1.36%. Brent trading $66.63, up 1.18%. So that's what I have for you in terms of morning market update, Emily.
Bill, we can hear from your opening. You're really looking at data and information across a lot of fronts, the trade talk and tariff front. That's really the big headline that we're continuing to watch that's market moving. But you're also keeping an eye on things on the earnings front, the Fed front, the economic events front. And we're going to dig into the details throughout today's show, making sure that we're prepared for this trading day ahead of an extended holiday weekend. We will first turn to earnings action. Bill, give us a rundown there.
Well, let's start off with Alcoa, ticker AA, Apple. They beat by 74 cents, but it was done on lower revenue. Remember, these guys are an aluminum producer. And, President Trump is really big on trying to do our own manufacturing. But, Alcoa came out and said that they're not going to make a decision to restart U.S. capacity based on the tariffs. Because, presidents come and go, but your business, once you make that investment is made. So it's kind of difficult for them to make a big investment to invest in smelters for more aluminum production with these tariffs that are on, and which will be pulled in the next administration most likely. So Alcoa is actually trading down 1.68% this morning after positive earnings beat. CSX Corp, that's trading lower by 0.36%. But they did deliver a beat of 3 cents, but it was done on lower revenue. Then you got American Express, AXP, Apple X-Ray Pulse. They beat by 17 cents, and they did it on higher revenue. AXP is trading lower by 1.67%. Then United Healthcare, UNH, Uncle Nancy Henry, they missed by 9 cents, and they did it on lower revenue, and they lowered guidance. UNH is down 20% this morning. At 450, you got to start looking at it, but at 468, it could still fall a little more. So I'm cautious on UNH. And upcoming after the bell today, you got Netflix, NFLX, Nancy Frank, Larry X-Ray, set to release their earnings. Now, the EPS is $5.74, and the expected move is 6.10%. That's like $58. Call put ratio is positive. 89,000 calls versus 63,000 puts, a 0.71 put to call ratio. So that is positive. But you got to be cautious on it because that big move, $58 move, if you're wrong, you gotta run. But Netflix earnings after the bell, that's going to be the hot one, Emily.
Definitely some big earnings to be watching there, especially with that Netflix earnings report. As you mentioned, you'll be grabbing that as soon as it hits the tape using your earnings alert. You also have an alert set up for economic reports and events. Really in this bucket, we're looking at things like the tariff talks, economic reports, and anything going on with the Fed, which really all three of those things are very, the market is sensitive to all of those indicators. So, Bill, give us a look at everything we should be watching when it comes to the day's economic events.
8:30 a.m., you get jobless claims. Estimates are for it to come in at 225K. Last week, the data came in at 223K. Housing starts and building permits are also at 8:30, as well as the Philadelphia Fed Manufacturing Index. In terms of Fed speak today, you got Michael Barr. He's a Fed governor. He's going to be speaking at 11:45 a.m. But Fed Chairman, Jerome Powell's comments yesterday are still, inflecting the markets, because he warned that Trump's sweeping tariffs are likely to cause, a unique and challenging dilemma for the central bank, as these policies are likely to push up consumer prices, raising inflation. And at the same time, it's going to hurt economic activity in the labor market. So, it's a scenario where the Fed's dual mandate of promoting maximum employment and ensuring price stability could come into direct conflict. And, then Trump comes out last night and he's beating on, Jerome Powell to lower interest rates. You can't lower interest rates in an environment where inflation is spiking. You put the tariffs on, inflation is spiking. You can't ask for both. It's just not the way the world works. It's where Trump vision world works, though, I guess. But you just can't do that. And he can't wait to replace Powell. He's going to replace Powell with someone that will adhere to him, someone that will be a interest rate cuts guy. But the Fed is a board. It's not just one person. So, I don't know if he's going to have, if by just instituting a new Fed chairman, that will actually solve the issue of getting the rate cuts that he desires to take effect. Because the Fed is, they base their decisions on the incoming data. And not be due to the president's will, because presidents, throughout multiple presidents have pushed on the Fed to lower interest rates, and the Fed just doesn't respond well to that. So, but that's what I have for you in terms of an economic update this morning, Emily.
That is a challenging situation to navigate. The markets are reacting to the prongs in that multi-pronged approach, managing inflation, consumer sentiment, consumer habits, the overall health of the economy. And it is tricky. So, in order to keep track of the trading day, the more information that we have on hand, the better. Because not only are we looking at those earnings reports and the economic events that you just mentioned, we're able to keep track of other buckets of information, really able to sift through the noise and find opportunities as we're navigating these bigger headlines. You're looking at things this morning like you do every morning, like merger news, guidance news, shareholders meetings, buyback news, catalyst calls. You look at stocks grouped together like your FANG stocks and your Dow 30 stocks. So, Bill, what else do you see is possibly moving the markets today?
Just doing a quick data check. I'm looking at my Dow stocks. I got 21 Dow stocks higher, 5 lower, and then 4 unchanged. Okay, that's not horrible. I mean, the 4 that are unchanged are indicating, bid asks that are relatively an uptick. So that's positive going into the session. Then you look at the FANG stocks. We're showing gains across the board of at least 0.8% for the various FANG stocks. So that's nice to see. And you look at some of the news behind the tape, like Google has that, the UK regulators, they have the ability to put a fine on Google. They could be a $6.62 billion fine. It's kind of, keeping the stock from, moving much higher right now. But, with the digital, with the trade talks going on, I don't think they're going to fine them is nearly anything near the 6.62 billion, but time will tell. Netflix, hey, earnings are after the bell. That's the big one. And, market's really going to be paying attention then. You're going to see, and you look at Netflix this morning, it's already up 1.39%. I mean, it could grow even higher as we get closer to that earnings time of release. And then, Tesla, I mean, Musk has that SpaceX, which apparently is the front runner to build Trump's Golden Dome, which is like a missile shield. Interesting. Then we're talking about Dow Jones 30 stocks. NVIDIA, the CEO is in China today, and he called China a key market for the chip maker. China's wooing him. China wants him. China wants his technology. China wants his product. Decisions have to be made. UNH, listen, they not UNH, Visa, ticker V is in Visa. They announced an April 30th date for the release of new products and solutions. So mark that on your calendar. April 30th, Visa. Could be something there. Then we're talking merger news. We're talking GNP, Grace Nancy Paul, which is global payments. They're acquiring WorldPay for $24.25 billion in a 3-way deal with Fidelity National Information Services and a private equity firm, GTCR. Hertz, HTZ, Henry Tom Zebra. Listen, Pershing Square, they announced a big position in the stock active manager. Uh, I just don't like it. I think it's a mistake. I mean, and Pershing Square is overdue for another big miss. And, you're walking into it, you're buying Hertz, which is essentially a company tied to travel and leisure, so vacations, into a situation where the economy is weakening. People will be driving more, but that doesn't mean they're going to be renting more cars. And this could be, it depends on this time frame, obviously. But yeah, I don't like this, 4% position he took in Hertz. I mean, remember Herbalife? Remember J.C. Penney? I mean, he got crushed in those stocks as well. But Pershing Square, 4% position, and Hertz, HTZ. In terms of guidance news, AXP, Apple X-Ray Paul, they're back in their full year 2025 EPS view of $15 to $15.50. Street estimate is in the middle, $15.26. So that's not bad. DR Horton, DHI, they cut their full year 2025 revenue view to 33.3 billion to 34.8 billion. Street estimate is 36.14 billion. That's a big downtick. And UNH, United Healthcare, they cut their full year 2025 EPS view to $26 to $26.50. Now the street estimate going into the earnings was $29.74. That's a double big downtick. But that's why you're seeing UNH down, almost 20% this morning. In terms of shareholders meetings going on, Humana, HUM, Henry Uncle Michael, they're having a shareholders meeting today. It starts at 1 p.m. And an interactive broker, IBKR, India Boy, Kilo Richard, they're having a shareholders meeting that's supposed to start at 9:30 a.m. this morning. In terms of buyback news, Huntington Bake Shares, that's HBAM, Henry Boy, Apple Nancy, their board approved a 1 billion share repurchasing authorization. DHI, that's DR Horton, they announced a new share repurchasing authorization of $5 billion. So, wow, that's big. But, stock is still falling. DHI is down 1.31% this morning. Then we got to talk about catalyst calls. We got to talk Qualcomm, QCOM, Quinton, Charlie, Oscar, Mary. Citibank opened up a 30-day positive catalyst watch on the stock as it heads into earnings. So that's one to keep an eye on, Qualcomm, QCOM, Emily. And that's what I have for you about news hitting the tape this morning.
This is the type of data that NewsWare delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional Newswire delivers. We've now made it to that time of the show for the Trade Talk pick of the day. Bill, what do you have for us to wrap up this week?
I'm going to go with Intel, INTC, India, Nancy, Tom, Charlie. Now, the news hit the tape that TSM's not in active talks with Intel. There's no joint venture being planned. That's causing the stock to sell off. I mean, the stock's down 1% this morning. It was down even further. But that news is not new news. I knew about that. That had already come out. So the fact that they reiterated it because the earnings came out, well, that's fine, but it's not new news. And that's why I think there's going to be an opportunity in the stock today. I mean, you look at yesterday's call volume on Intel, 259, 249 on the call side, 259,249. Then you look at the put side, 136,908. That's positive. And then the open interest, 3.6 million versus 2.2 million. Again, that's positive. Remember, they did that deal, sell their, with Silver Lake, was it, that they sold their Altera unit to, 51% control. So that's kind of positive too. I just think that this weakness that's being tied to TSM news is overdone. And this morning I saw the stock trading at 1880. So I do think it can hit 1880. I mean, listen, if it hit 1850 to 1880, if it hits in that range, you got to think about picking some up because, this news is already out there. So it shouldn't be a factor that's causing the stock sell up because you look at all the other stocks in the sector and they're trading higher. So I do like Intel today. I'll say 1870 as my price target, give or take 10 cents. But that's my pick of the day. Intel, INTC, Emily.
Intel trade today, kind of trading that news cycle in combination with a data-driven approach. We're going to see if that one works out when we follow that along with you today. And coming up, we will do a recap on yesterday's pick of the day, sort of a similar formula there with a news cycle and data backing it up. So we will check in on that. But first, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our hot off the press segment. Bill, take it away.
One of the things I noticed this morning was, there's good solid movement in the Chinese retail and stocks this morning. But I need to point out that, that there's still these news stories about the U.S. potentially delisting Chinese stocks. They're calling it a real possibility, and there's a lot at stake there. But they are trading higher this morning. Schwab, stocks trading higher after an earnings beat. That's nice. SCHW, Playboy Group, PLBY, they announced the cancellation of a special meeting because I saw that. I didn't report on it, but I did see that they were having a meeting today, but apparently they canceled it. PLBY. Interesting. That's typically negative. Trump administration orders New York Empire Wind to halt construction. Trump is said to have had a very productive call with the president of Mexico yesterday. Coinbase gets regulatory notice for crypto accounting move that, this was talked about a month ago. What else we see here? Costco raised its dividend payout by 12%. Regeneron's was granted FDA orphan drug designation for one of its drugs. Tesla said to be lowering Cybertruck production targets. I saw. Eli Lilly said its experimental drug led to weight loss of nearly 8% on the highest dose and lower blood sugar for overweight patients with type 2 diabetes. That's positive. Alphabet, Meta, PDD Holdings, Chinese online marketplace Termview, and fashion retailer Shine, two of the biggest advertisers on U.S. social media, are sharply cutting their U.S. digital ad spend. That's a big blow. That's all I'm seeing this morning, Emily.
Okay, Bill, before we dive into trading on this Thursday and sign off for the long weekend, let's do a quick check-in on yesterday's pick of the day, which was Boeing. It's ticker BA. Now, this one was sort of a combination of looking at the data and the news cycle. This was in lieu of an earnings pick. There was news about Russia buying some Boeing aircraft, but that was following news that China was not going to buy any more Boeing aircrafts. And really, you were trying to take advantage of some weakness in the stock, thinking there would be a run after the pullback. How did your call work out?
Worked out good. I mean, listen, the stock opened up at $154.37. Then it fell. It fell to $153.54, and then it just caught that wave of buying. And remember, yesterday was a big sell-off day. It caught a nice spike higher, running all the way up to 157.66 and closed at 156.49. Now, I was saying anything under 154.50, and when it opened up 154.37, that was a gold mine. But closing it up to 157.66. I mean, this morning, it already hit a high of 158.43 and is trading higher again this morning. So Boeing, ticker BA, boy, Apple, was a winner yesterday, Emily.
A win there, Bill. And if listeners recall, markets really took a dive yesterday. So to be able to hold on to that win and find a stock that stayed in the green, it feels like a double win there. And we will check in with you on Monday about today's Intel pick of the day. A reminder that markets are closed tomorrow in observance of the Good Friday holiday. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here Monday and each weekday morning next week at NewsWare's Trade Talk when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily Advani, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.